Part 11. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Len. Chapter 101. It has been some time since Xuanhuan came to this world. It's inevitable that you'll feel a little homesick. The best solution for missing your hometown is to have a bite of hometown food. Dumplings have been passed down in China for many years, and they are a must-eat dish for almost every family during festivals and New Year's. Xuanhuan also missed this bite. So he decided to take Fengju, Long Xiaoxiao, Yunyaner and other concubines to make dumplings and eat them himself. But making dumplings is not a simple matter, and Xuanhuan knows nothing about it. Dumpling fillings are easy to say, just add all the seasonings, meat fillings or other fillings and mix evenly. But the dumpling wrapper is not that simple, it is very particular. It is necessary not only to ensure that the dumpling skin is soft, tight, and elastic, but also to ensure that the thickness of the dumpling skin is moderate. Otherwise, the dumplings will look ugly and have a bad image. But fortunately this is a fantasy world, and everything is possible. Xuanhuan directly used the finest spiritual noodles and immortal spring water to knead the noodles, which was outrageously extravagant. And now, Xuanhuan was checking the dumpling wrappers made by everyone. The dumpling skins made by Fengju are very thin, transparent, and watery, and it's as if you can vaguely see the fillings in the dumplings through the skins. They are soft, smooth, and chewy. The dumpling skin made by Long Xiaoxiao is relatively thick, but the surface is extremely smooth without any wrinkles, and looks extremely delicate and smooth. The dumpling wrappers made by Yunyaner and others are even more beautiful. They are as white as frost, just like fairies scattering flowers, which is really charming. Not only thin but full of texture, tender and smooth. Xuanhuan looked at the prepared dumpling skins one by one and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. As expected of a fantasy world, the dumpling skins made are all different. Your Majesty, how do you like the dumplings I made? Yunyaner approached Xuanhuan with a smile and asked delicately. Good. Xuanhuan nodded in praise. Yunyaner suddenly showed a sweet smile. She liked Xuanhuan's praise because it represented Xuanhuan's approval. Your Majesty, please try my concubine's cooking again. Yunyaner brought the dumplings she had just made and put them on the table, looking at Xuanhuan expectantly. Xuanhuan picked up a dumpling with chopsticks and put it into his mouth. After biting the skin, the meat juice inside burst out, filling his mouth with a sweet and delicious taste. Delicious. Xuanhuan couldn't help but cheer. When Yunyaner saw this, she couldn't help but pursed her lips and smiled, and a hint of joy flashed in her eyes. Papa, where's mine? Long Xiaoxiao on the side muttered, then moved closer to Xuanhuan and asked Xuanhuan how he felt. Yet Xuanhuan nodded again, the dumplings made by Xiaoxiao Bao are not bad either. Try how it tastes. Long Xiaoxiao blinked his big eyes and looked at Xuanhuan expectantly. Upon hearing this, Xuanhuan took a fat, white dumpling and put it into his mouth, tasting it carefully. After he was silent for a moment, a thoughtful look appeared on his face. I feel like something is missing. When Long Xiaoxiao heard this, he raised his head slightly and asked doubtfully, what's missing? Xuanhuan tasted it carefully. After a long time, he slowly said, it's a bit sweet, it needs some dipping sauce. Dipping is the soul of eating dumplings. Without dipping, this wonderful taste will be greatly reduced. Dipping, Long Xiaoxiao blinked his big eyes in confusion, half understanding. Your Majesty is right, it should be served with some dipping sauce. When Yunyaner heard this, she suddenly remembered something and her eyes lit up. She walked aside and found a bottle of red liquid. The red liquid exudes a strong aroma of wine, which makes people feel ecstatic when smelling it. This is the peach blossom drunkenness brewed by me. Yunyaner handed the red liquid in her hand to Xuanhuan and said with a gentle smile, Your Majesty, please try the peach blossom wine brewed by me. Xuanhuan took it and drank it all in one gulp, a warm current rising in his stomach. He stretched his eyebrows, closed his eyes and enjoyed it for a long time, then opened his eyes and said, "Good wine." Peach Blossom Zy was specially brewed by Xuanhuan. Although it is not a unique wine, it is still very rare. It is sweet and soft in the mouth, just like drinking a glass of mellow and sweet nectar. The peach blossom drunk brewed by me is worse than the one brewed by the chef in the imperial kitchen, which made His Majesty laugh. Xuanhuan smiled modestly. Qin Mu waved his hand, "You are so humble." Subsequently, Hongxiu, Hongluan, Qingqing, Ziwan, Lu Yun's Huang and other women also rushed to offer their dumplings for Qin Mu to taste. Qin Mu took a bite of dumplings and drank a sip of peach blossom stuffed wine, which was really a different taste. The feeling of homesickness also gradually disappeared during this delicious feast. Time flies so fast, and in the blink of an eye it is already 3 days later. In the past 3 days, the northern border has been attacking cities and plundering territory. After first taking over Jiangzhou County, they quickly took over Nanling County, and are now heading towards Dongyang County. The momentum along the way is like breaking bamboo, destroying everything. Not only that. After winning several consecutive battles, the Zhenbei army's morale was high and they became more and more brave. They were ready to directly capture Chang'an City. If Zhang Luoshan hadn't ordered a general attack, they might have laid siege to Chang'an City. Moreover, Zhang Luoshan is also actively recruiting troops from various counties to join her. Now she has 1 million troops under her command. If the day comes to besiege Chang'an City, there will really be millions of cavalry surrounding Chang'an. And the armies of the Kangyu dynasty and the Jianyuan dynasty had already arrived in the territory of Daqin. At this time, Zhang Luoshan and Zhang Luoshan were meeting in Jiangzhou County to discuss the feat of a united front. Jiangzhou County. On the Xiantian flying boat. Zhang Luoshan sat in the main seat, looking at the two generals in front of him indifferently. One of the generals was wearing silver armor, looking heroic, exuding a strong fighting spirit and sharp aura, obviously a brave and fierce general. He was Baudao, the general of the Qianyuan dynasty. The other one was wearing black clothes, carrying a broad heavy sword, with deep eyes and a majestic look. He was the general of the south of the Kangyu dynasty, Chen Tiancheng. The two generals were both at the level of the king of the way of killing. Your Highness, the Zhenbei army in the northern border has already captured 3 counties. I think that we should use these 3 counties as our bases and spread out from 3 directions to take over the entire territory of Daqin in one fell swoop and completely occupy Daqin. Baudao took the lead in proposing. His tone was sonorous and powerful, and his voice was deafening, resounding in the flying boat, shocking many northern generals. Chen Tiancheng also nodded, "Brother Ba is right." Zhang Luoshan looked at the two coldly, "Your army is not needed now, we in the northern border will solve it ourselves." Hearing Zhang Luoshan's words, both of them frowned. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 102. However, no matter how they tried to persuade them, Zhang Luoshan remained unmoved and said coldly. I said, "It's not yet time for the two of you to take action. When the time comes, you will naturally be used." After saying that, she stood up and left the flying boat with the guards. Your Highness. Seeing Zhang Luoshan being so disrespectful, Baodao's heart burned with anger. Chen Tiancheng reached out and patted his shoulder and shook his head. Baodao stared fiercely at Zhang Luoshan's leaving figure and said bitterly, "She is deliberately delaying time by doing this to prevent us from occupying Daqin's land." Chen Tiancheng smiled slightly, "It doesn't matter, when Daqin's dog jumps over the wall, she will come to beg us." Baodao snorted coldly and then left with a puff of sleeves. Chen Tiancheng also left. And at this moment, Chang'an City. Above the Jinluan Palace. This day, The national preceptor Du Yulin went to court again with his coffin on his back. When Qin Mu slowly appeared in the Jinluan hall and saw the scene in the court, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. I saw that Du Yulin did not carry the black coffin behind his back this time, but lay directly inside the black coffin. He had a firm look on his face and looked as if he was ready to die. The corners of Qin Mu's mouth twitched slightly, wanting to smile. "No, you can't laugh, you have to hold it back." Qin Mu slowly sat on the dragon chair, and all the ministers immediately knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "See your majesty." Qin Mu raised his hand, "Sit down." The ministers stood up, and there was silence. Qin Mu glanced sideways at Imperial Master Du Yulin, who was still lying in the black coffin, and said angrily, "National Master, you are addicted, right? Get out of here." The national preceptor Du Yulin looked sad. "Your Majesty, I will die soon, but I can't worry about you, Your Majesty. After my death, you have to take care of yourself." Several black lines appeared on Qin Mu's forehead. "I order you to come out quickly." "Well." Du Yulin sighed, then walked out of the black coffin, walked slowly to Qin Mu, and bowed down. "Your Majesty, the Qin dynasty is now in dire straits. The old minister is extremely sad when he sees this, but he is helpless and powerless. He is really unwilling and afraid that he will not be able to hold on for much longer. Ahem." As he spoke, Du Yulin coughed a few times, his face turned pale and he looked extremely ill, and even the skin on his face seemed to have become dry. Qin Mu's forehead was covered with black lines. "Are you going to kill a strong man in the Tao realm and play this game with me?" Okay. Qin Mu said calmly, "Master, next time you perform, remember to keep the skin on your neck consistent with that on your face. It's hard for me to believe you do this." Du Yulin was slightly startled. He looked down and realized that the skin on his face had become dry, but the skin on his neck was still rosy and shiny. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Du Yulin's face. This was his first time pretending, so he wasn't very good at it. He should know better next time. "Your Majesty, please forgive me. I did not intentionally deceive Your Majesty, but I really didn't know how to persuade Your Majesty, so I made this decision. I hope Your Majesty will understand." Du Yulin knelt on the ground again and said with fear. Qin Mu waved his hand, "Okay, I will forgive you this time. Don't do anything like this next time." "Yes, thank you Your Majesty," Du Yulin said respectfully. However, even though his disguise was seen through, he still had to say the words of admonishment. "Your Majesty, the northern border is in dire straits. Now 3 counties have been completely occupied, and the entire Great Qin is in danger. If you don't send troops, Your Majesty will be in danger when the opponent attacks Chang'an City. Please send troops as soon as possible." Du Yulin had a serious look on his face and begged. All the ministers agreed one after another. "Yes, Your Majesty, troops from the north are already approaching the city. It's not appropriate to delay any longer. Let's send troops to wipe out the bandits in the north as soon as possible. Your Majesty, please send troops to fight against the bandits in the north. Your Majesty, please do not be careless. The Kangyu dynasty and the Jianyuan dynasty have also sent troops into the territory of Deqin. The situation cannot be delayed any longer." All the ministers spoke earnestly and tried their best to advise. It can be said that they haven't been able to eat well, drink well, or sleep well these past few days. I'm afraid that one day in the north, the coalition forces of Kangyu and Jianyuan will attack Chang'an City. Qin Mu frowned when he heard this. "Didn't I send a general to counter the rebellion? What? He didn't complete the task." When the ministers saw Qin Mu's confused look, they were speechless and choked up in their hearts. "I'm afraid you are the only one who doesn't know about this whole Great Qin. The general you sent to counter the rebellion was completely suppressed by the Zhenbei army in less than an hour, and even the generals were captured. They really don't know where to complain. His Majesty seems not to have cared about such a big matter at all. I'm afraid I'm still obsessed with beauty these days. Your Majesty, the counter-rebellion failed and the entire army was wiped out. Du Yulin said with some embarrassment. Huh, Qin Mu was surprised, as if he was shocked by the result. Failed? 50,000 elites, couldn't even suppress the northern border? What a bunch of trash, a bunch of losers, what use do I have for them? Qin Mu cursed angrily. Your Majesty, please calm down. It's really not their fault. It's just that the Zhenbei army is too strong and our army is powerless to fight against them. Du Yulin said helplessly. Using 50,000 to suppress a rebellion of hundreds of thousands is not a number that can win no matter how you look at it. Unless these 50,000 people are all elite among the elite, and each of them has at least the strength of the Purple Mansion realm, they may be able to fight one or two. But even if these warriors are the elite of the Qin dynasty, the strongest ones are only in the Spirit Sea realm. Most soldiers are still hovering between the Body Forging realm, the Qi Induction realm, and the Foundation Establishment realm. After all, it is extremely difficult to train a powerful cultivator. This requires not only a huge amount of resources, but also excellent talent. And the base of the army is so large that it is impossible to train all the soldiers. Then in the opinion of the national teacher, what should we do now? Qin Mu asked curiously. Du Yulin was delighted when he heard Qin Mu ask this. Could it be that His Majesty finally got it? He said quickly. Your Majesty, in my opinion, the best way now is to gather all the power of the Great Qin, attack quickly, recapture the 3 counties, and capture Zhangluoshan from the northern border to stabilize the overall situation. Qin Mu was not impressed by the words, the national teacher is exaggerating again. After a pause, he continued to ask, National teacher, let me ask you, how many counties are there in the Great Qin? Du Yulin did not hesitate at all, and answered like a treasure, Your Majesty, there are a total of 329 counties. Then what is 329 counties minus 3, Qin Mu asked again. Du Yulin hesitated for a moment, and suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart, hesitantly said, equal to 326. Qin Mu nodded, smiled, and asked, compared with 326 and 3, which one is bigger? Of course 326 is bigger, Du Yulin whispered. Qin Mu's smile widened, and he said confidently, right, we still have 326, why should we be afraid of the 3 counties? Even if Zhangluoshan occupies it, what can he do? Du Yulin. Ministers. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 103. They really want to say something. Your Majesty, where does your confidence come from? Can you share it with me? The key to this matter is not who has more counties and who has fewer counties, but that every time he attacks the city, Zhangluoshan succeeds in taking it with almost no effort. What does this mean? This represents destiny. If this continues, the remaining 326 counties will probably start preparing to surrender without Zhangluoshan sending troops there. By that time, De Qin will really have the surname Zhang. His Majesty. Okay. You don't need to say any more. Qin Mu waved his hand and interrupted the ministers, since the suppression of the rebellion has failed, let's leave her alone for the time being. I believe that Zhangluoshan will let her go as soon as she gets along. All the civil and military officials looked helpless when they heard this. Your Majesty, you are really big-hearted. Then Zhangluoshan came to avenge her father. Do you think she would leave so easily? Coupled with the current failure in countering the rebellion, the confidence of the Northern Army is unprecedentedly high. Even if Zhang Luoshan wants the Zhenbei army to stop, it will probably be difficult. The situation has developed to this point, and it is no longer as simple as Zhang Luoshan to stop if he wants to. Du Yulin spoke again, Your Majesty, if there is only one side in the north, then we really don't need to worry too much, but now that Kangyu dynasty and Qianyuan dynasty also want to intervene, the problem will become serious. Qin Mu nodded, frowning deeply, with a sullen look on his face. These two countries are really good at taking advantage of the situation, especially the Kangyu dynasty. They sent envoys to try to blackmail me, De Qin, some time ago. It's really abominable. If you don't give them some color, do you really think that I, De Qin, is a soft persimmon that can be manipulated by anyone? After a pause, he looked at Du Yulin again and said, National Master, pass on my decree, you personally lead millions of troops to the Qianyuan Empire, and destroy them first for me. Du Yulin was slightly startled, Your Majesty, why did you send troops to Qianyuan first? Logically speaking, the one who should send troops the most, and the one who is most convenient to send troops, should be the Kangyu dynasty. After all, Kangyu had a large territory bordering Deqin, and could easily cross the border and invade Kangyu. Qianyuan had almost no territory bordering Deqin, so it was not easy to lead a large number of troops there. Without waiting for Du Yulin to ask, Qin Mu explained. The key to using troops is surprise. You see, even you didn't expect it, and the Qianyuan dynasty certainly didn't expect that we would suddenly attack Qianyuan at this time. Qin Mu talked to himself. Du Yulin thought about it carefully and found that there was actually some truth in what His Majesty said. However, regarding the situation, His Majesty is still as dull as ever and has not seen it thoroughly at all. The top priority is to destroy the enemies in Deqin, not to send troops to other countries. Your Majesty, this is inappropriate. Du Yulin shook his head and said in a deep voice, Now there are a large number of unknown enemy troops in Deqin. If we rush to send troops to Qianyuan, Chang'an City will be in danger of being empty of troops. Moreover, if Zhang Luoshan seizes the opportunity, I am afraid that the other party will attack Chang'an City in a large scale, and the consequences will be disastrous. So the veteran believes that the top priority is to find out the traces of the enemy as soon as possible, expel the enemy within the country, and at the same time strengthen defense and stabilize the border. If we cannot deal with the enemy troops in front of us as soon as possible, then there will definitely be a bloody battle waiting for Chang'an City. Even if Chang'an City is defended, Deqin will still have to pay a huge price. Du Yulin talked a lot and analyzed the current situation and its pros and cons. He hoped that Qin Mu would listen to his advice and not rush forward. But what shocked him was that after listening to his advice, Qin Mu's face was full of indifference and he said without hesitation, National Master, you don't understand this. Offense is the best defense. Only by fighting with your back against the wall can you win. This time you will lead the army to Qianyuan. I will be responsible for guarding Chang'an City. In addition, I will notify the governors and generals of all states and counties. If anyone dares to surrender again, I will definitely kill them. Qin Mu's attitude was extremely firm and there was no room for doubt. Du Yulin was stunned by his words, and his mind went blank. The officials all had complex expressions on their faces, and they didn't know where to refute. Your Majesty, don't be too smart at this time and make dangerous moves, okay? Isn't it time to deal with matters in the north first and then consider other things? Why did you go straight to the enemy? Do you still want Chang'an City? I'm afraid that before the Imperial Army can invade Qianyuan, Great Qin will be gone. Your Majesty, be careful. Du Yulin took a deep breath, bowed his hands and said, Your Majesty, please think twice and don't do anything stupid. Qin Mu waved his hand and said calmly, My decision has been made. There is no need for the Imperial Master to say more. Just execute it according to the decree. His Majesty. Du Yulin opened his mouth to speak. But Qin Mu didn't even wait for him to finish, and directly raised his hand to interrupt him. Master, if you really want to do something for Great Qin, then go and turn the Xuanhuan kingdom upside down. You don't have to worry about me. Du Yulin sighed and did not dare to say more. That's all. His Majesty has said so, so what else can be done? I can only obey the will. Qin Mu stood up, shook his sleeves and said calmly. Okay, let's retreat from the court. After the national division returns, we will immediately reorganize the army and set off for the battle tomorrow. The ministers looked at each other with helpless expressions in their eyes. But seeing Qin Mu's determination, they said nothing more and bowed to agree. We respectfully send off your Majesty. Then they withdrew from the court. Just before leaving, Du Yulin spoke again, Your Majesty. What else does the Imperial Master want? Qin Mu frowned. Du Yulin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Your Majesty, I, an old minister, will not disappoint your Majesty and will return triumphantly. Take care, Your Majesty. After saying that, he bowed deeply and turned away. The back was sad and desolate, but also particularly majestic and tall, as if a mountain stood tall, supporting the sky for the Qin dynasty. Du Yulin's face was firm and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Although he had no way to change His Majesty's decision, he would do his best to fulfill His Majesty's will. He would use his body to tell the world what it means for an old soldier to never die. Du Yulin strode forward with his head held high. Just as he was about to step out of the hall. Master, wait a minute. Qin Mu's voice suddenly sounded behind him. Du Yulin paused slightly, his expression brightened, and he turned back quickly. Your Majesty, have you changed your mind? Qin Mu shook his head and pointed expressionlessly at the coffin still in the hall. Take this thing of yours with you, I get angry when I see it. Du Yulin. His expression instantly stiffened, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. But he soon adjusted his mood, looking at the coffin, his eyes became more solemn. Your Majesty, please allow me to take the coffin with me to the battle, and I will not return until I break Xuanhuan. After saying that, he didn't wait for Qin Mu to say anything, he bent down and picked up the coffin, and strode away. Qin Mu looked at Du Yulin's back as he left, and couldn't help but smiled and shook his head. Carrying a coffin to the battle? You are the pillar of the Qin dynasty. I can't bear to see you die. Then Qin Mu stopped smiling and suddenly said to the void. Lu Su, Wu Shuang, you will go to Xuanhuan with the national teacher tomorrow. 2 tasks, one is to assassinate all the royal children of the Xuanhuan dynasty, and the other is to protect the safety of the national teacher. After the voice fell, the void in front of Qin Mu suddenly appeared a wave, like a stone thrown into the water, rippling. I saw 2 women in armor slowly stepping out and kneeling on one knee in front of Qin Mu. They were on the left and the right, one black and one white, with beautiful faces, extremely cold temperament, cold eyes, without a trace of emotion, and exuding an aura of strangers not approaching. Xuanhuan. Lu Su. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 104. Remember, hide in the dark, don't reveal your identity, Qin Mu ordered again. Follow the master's order. The 2 women said in unison, and then turned into 2 afterimages and left the golden palace, hiding in the darkness. The 2 women are Qin Mu's saint puppets. With their help in secret, the Xuanhuan dynasty will not be destroyed directly, but it will definitely be seriously injured. Qin Mu sneered, Xuanhuan dynasty, wait, see how I will kill you step by step. Ding detected that the host did not distinguish the situation, took risky moves, acted on his own, and bet everything on one throw. It is considered a foolish act, and received a foolish reward, a 100,000 UN God Realm Dragon Rider Warrior. At this time, the system's rewards have also been issued on time. Qin Mu's eyes lit up slightly. A 100,000 UN God Realm Warrior? Very good, this reward makes the war that was already a sure win even easier. Although the reward this time is not comparable to the previous reward of 1 million Great Snow Dragon Riders in quantity, it is better in quality, no, more than one. You should know that Qin Mu has received many system gifts and practiced dual cultivation day and night, and he has barely reached the Yuan Shen realm. This shows how difficult it is to reach the Yuan Shen realm. Not to mention those ordinary cultivators, for them, the Yuan Shen realm is a height that they can hardly reach in their lifetime. And now, with only the system reward, Qin Mu can easily summon 100,000 Shen realm dragon riders. The entire Kanyu dynasty and Qianyuan dynasty combined, it is probably difficult to gather 100,000 Shen realm cultivators. In this battle, he can completely win by lying down. Qin Mu shook his head and sighed. The more stupid, the more powerful, who can he go to for justice? Qin Mu stretched and walked lazily to the bedroom. There were too many dumpling skins made yesterday, and he didn't finish them in a day. He had to continue eating when he went back, and he couldn't waste them. Zhangzhou County. On the Xiantian flying boat. Zhang Luoshan held his forehead and pondered, quietly listening to his subordinates reporting the battle situation. Is there any movement in Chang'an City now? She asked. Your Highness, I haven't noticed any movement in Chang'an City. I heard that the tyrant never attended the morning court, and the great Qin state master had to carry the coffin to the court every time to force the tyrant out. A general said in a low voice. Zhang Luoshan's eyes flickered, and a hint of coldness appeared. He is indeed the first tyrant in the history, and only he can do such a thing. Not only that, according to our inquiries, the tyrant seems to want to build a fairy palace in Chang'an City, and a temporary palace in each county. The general continued. Zhang Luoshan heard the words, and the coldness in his eyes became more and more intense. What a tyrant, he is still thinking about how to have fun when he is about to die. He really deserves to die. Her voice was extremely cold, revealing undisguised anger and contempt. The general did not comment, but continued. Your Highness, there is one more thing. According to our investigation, the Qianyuan dynasty did send many strong men to Dakan, and there seems to be a saint-level existence. This time, the general spoke very slowly and in a very solemn voice. Well, I know. Zhang Luoshan nodded, without much surprise on his face. Keep watching, if there is anything unusual, report immediately. The general did not retreat immediately, but raised his head, hesitated for a moment, and said. Your Highness, our move is tantamount to seeking the skin of a tiger. If the Qianyuan dynasty and the Kanyu dynasty really conquer Dakan, our northern border may. Hearing this, Zhang Luoshan's expression stagnated slightly, and his eyes flickered. After a long time, she sighed, but if we don't do this, the northern border alone may not be able to overthrow Dakan. Although the tyrant killed her father unjustly, Dakan is still the dynasty that her father has guarded for a lifetime. She naturally doesn't want to see outsiders invade. She didn't want to do this, but if she didn't, the so-called righteous act of the North would eventually become a waste. Top combat power has always been the fatal weakness of the North. Although the Zhenbei army has achieved great results and gained enough people's hearts, it only takes one saint to turn the tide. She had no choice. Compared with the invasion of Dakan by others, Zhang Luoshan was more unwilling to see the North soldiers die and get injured for the final victory. So she could only choose to cooperate with the Kanyu dynasty and the Qianyuan dynasty. The general also sighed, I am ashamed. He knew the difficulties in his own prince's heart, but he could do nothing about it. The North now seems to be prosperous, which makes the counties of Dakan frightened. Even the Qianyuan dynasty and the Kanyu dynasty have to act according to the face of the North. But in fact, it is sandwiched between the three dynasties. If you are not careful, you will be doomed. Zhang Luoshan's eyes flickered, and he said slowly, I have my own plan, don't worry. Yes. I understand. The general replied in a low voice. Zhang Luoshan nodded slightly, then waved his hand, you can leave first and continue to keep an eye on Chang'an City. Yes. The general said no more and left respectfully. Zhang Luoshan stood up, looked at the remaining generals, and said coldly. Pass the order, the whole army will return to Jiangzhou County, rest for 3 days, and after 3 days, use the Jiangzhou County teleportation formation to attack Chang'an across the board. Also, notify Xuanhuan and Kangyu to encircle Chang'an from the left and right wings, cut off the retreat route and teleportation formation of the tyrant, and make sure to trap the tyrant to death in Chang'an. Yes. The generals responded one after another, and then quickly retreated. P.S. My favorite plot of the demonic fall is about to begin, he. When the demonic mark was planted on Ji Qingxiu, many readers asked why she was not allowed to sink step by step. The answer is of course because she is just a little female supporting role, not worthy of me to spend too much time on it. But Zhang Luoshan is different. From the beginning, the demonic mark was prepared for Zhang Luoshan he. The Gift King event will end in 1 day. Brothers, make another sprint and send small gifts to see how high we can get. After taking medicine for a few days, my body is almost healed today. Now I owe 4 chapters, and I will make up for it tomorrow. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 105. 3 days later. In the morning, the sun was rising. The red clouds in the sky reflected the mountains, which looked particularly hazy and dreamy. And at this moment, rumble! A deafening sound resounded on the plain, as if thunder exploded and awakened the earth. Accompanied by this loud noise, dust rolled on the plain, like a column of smoke, covering half of the sky. Woo! A series of horn sounds broke through the clouds. On the wasteland outside Jiangnan County, countless armies were gathering, with flags fluttering, armor clanging, and murderous aura. This army had a total of 800,000 people, each of whom was the elite among the elite, and the fiercest among the fiercest. They either rode tall exotic beasts, or carried heavy iron shields, or carried sharp spears behind them, with murderous aura all over their bodies, filling the fields and making people palpitate. 800,000 troops lined up, covering the sky. From a distance, it looked like a tidal wave, sweeping across the entire plain and heading straight into the azure sky. In the center of the army was a huge flying boat. The flying boat was round, dozens of miles in size, black in color, with countless runes carved on it, emitting dazzling golden light, extremely majestic, as if a god had descended to the earth. On both sides of the ship stood soldiers, with spears pointing diagonally at the earth. On the top of the flying boat stood a towering battle flag, fluttering in the wind. It was the King Zhang flag. All troops, listen to my orders. When the last batch of troops had assembled, Zhang Luoshan walked onto the deck of the flying boat, overlooking the entire army, and spoke loudly. She was dressed in military uniform and phoenix boots, looking heroic and valiant, like a valkyrie. I will obey your orders. The 800,000 troops knelt down with a roar, and the sound shook the earth and sky, almost like thunder. Follow me to destroy Chang'an. Kill the tyrant. Zhang Luoshan shouted. Destroy Chang'an, kill the tyrant. Destroy Chang'an, kill the tyrant. Destroy Chang'an, kill the tyrant. In an instant, countless iron-blooded voices echoed in all directions, and the whole land shook violently, as if an infinite torrent was boiling and roaring, shaking the clouds and piercing the sky. As the shouts and killings shook the world, the light of infinite weapons burst out. The sky and the earth lost their color, the wind and clouds surged, the weapons were like dragons, and the swords and knives rang together. Let's go. Zhang Luoshan said no more, took a step forward, and boarded the flying boat. Rumble. The flying boat started and roared towards Zhangzhou County not far away. Boom. The next moment, 800,000 troops also roared up. They wanted to go through the teleportation formation of Zhangzhou County and directly reach the place closest to Chang'an City to complete the raid. At the same time, the allied armies of the Kangyu dynasty and the Qianyuan dynasty also appeared in Zhangzhou County at the same time. The two dynasties joined forces, and 1 million troops gathered here, vast and boundless, like an ocean. In front of the two dynasties, a huge flying boat spanned the void. The hugeness of this giant boat is terrifying, 1,000 feet high, surrounded by 9 scorching suns, emitting brilliant light, as bright as the sun. Under the protection of the 9 scorching suns, a huge palace is suspended on the giant boat. The palace is magnificent and luxurious, like a god's residence. It is the sun god boat of the Qianyuan dynasty. This sun god boat was refined by the successive national masters of the Qianyuan Empire, and its solidity is comparable to a top-grade holy weapon. It also has a powerful power to destroy cities, and can even destroy city defense arrays. It is an extremely powerful offensive weapon. In addition, the sun god ship contains a huge amount of supplies, which can be supplied to the army in an endless stream to meet unexpected needs. It can be said that the Qianyuan dynasty has already spent a lot of money for this invasion. After all, if Chang'an City is captured this time, the power of the Qianyuan dynasty will surely surge. Therefore, no matter how much it costs, they must capture Chang'an. As for the Kangyu dynasty, they are also aiming at Chang'an, and they have also made full preparations for this. At this time, inside the sun god ship, Baudao, the general of the Qianyuan dynasty, stood below respectfully at this time. Sitting in the main seat is an old man with white hair and beard, and his body is full of decay. The old man is wearing a grey robe, his face is withered, his eye sockets are deep, and the whole person exudes a dead breath, as if he will run out of energy and die at any time. However, although the old man is very old and dying, his pupils are like stars, shining with a blazing light. His body exuded a terrifying aura that looked down upon all living things and made people's hearts tremble. This old man was the saint ancestor of the Qianyuan dynasty, Li Hongzhen. Ancestor, according to intelligence, there is indeed a saint in Chang'an, and his cultivation is very high. Baudao frowned slightly and reported in a deep voice. If you want to quickly break through Chang'an, I'm afraid you have to do it yourself. Oh. Li Hongzhen glanced at Baudao indifferently. Baudao was immediately frightened and silent, sweating on his forehead, and he bowed quickly. How powerful is the majesty of the saint! Even he felt a huge oppression. It should be that immortal Gai Qin Tian, but are you sure there is only one? Li Hongzhen's hoarse and old voice sounded indifferently. Baudao hesitated for a moment. Ancestor, we don't know this either. After all, the whereabouts of the saints are mysterious and we can't easily detect them. Li Hongzhen frowned slightly and said lightly, waste. His tone was neither fast nor slow, without any ripples, but Baudao trembled all over, lowered his head and dared not refute. He was timid and uneasy. Forget it, those old guys in Dakan, even if they are not dead now, their lifespan is estimated to be short, so there is no need to be afraid. Li Hongzhen waved his hand. Baudao immediately breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat. Li Hongzhen slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air, with a cold light in his eyes. Besides, the Kangyu dynasty must have sent a saint, but I don't know which old friend it is. He raised his head and looked in the direction of Chang'an, with a cold arc on the corner of his mouth. The old Gai Qin Tian can't stop the destruction of the Qin dynasty. The ancestor has an infinite lifespan and will definitely suppress the Qin dynasty, Ba Yudao was immediately excited when he heard it. Li Hongzhen is the sixth emperor of the Xuanhuan dynasty. He has dominated the Xuanhuan dynasty for 800 years and his power is earth-shaking. If he takes action, Chang'an will be within his reach. And this time, the Kangyu royal family and the Xuanhuan dynasty joined forces and vowed to destroy Chang'an and destroy the Qin dynasty. Buzz. At this moment, the void suddenly shook and ripples flickered. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 106. Immediately afterwards, a burly man appeared out of thin air. This man has a wild and unruly temperament, his arms are spread out like eagle claws, and his eyes are as fierce as copper bells. When Ba Yudao saw this man, he suddenly felt a chill running down his spine, and he couldn't help but feel a strong sense of fear in his heart. This man was nicknamed Manmo, and he was the most brave and skilled war god in the Xuanhuan dynasty, known as the war-killing machine. His strength has reached the realm of killing, and his nature is bloodthirsty and cruel, killing people like crazy. Moreover, he likes to hunt humans the most and temper his body with human blood, so he is called the barbarian demon. Such vicious men made Ba Yudao, the cavalry general, feel frightened. However, the barbarian demon did not pay attention to Ba Yudao at this time. He looked at Li Hongzhen with a solemn expression. Ancestor, I just received news that Zhang Luoshan from the north has marched towards Chang'an. The barbarian demon licked his lips, his eyes were blood red, and his face was filled with excitement and violence. Ancestor, when do we set off? I can't wait to tear those Daqin bastards into pieces. His words were cold, as if they were popping out from between his teeth, making people's hair stand on end. What's the rush? You stupid bear. Li Hongzhen said indifferently, when Chang'an city is captured later, there will be plenty of opportunities for you to show off. Li Hongzhen's tone was indifferent and his expression was indifferent. Barbarian Demon was the ace soldier of the Xuanhuan dynasty. He was extremely powerful and unrivaled on the battlefield. He had participated in several large-scale campaigns of the Xuanhuan dynasty. He is a pure fighting madman, warlike and bloodthirsty throughout his life, and loves fighting on the battlefield the most. But this guy is too bellicose and will kill like crazy every time he goes on a campaign, regardless of the enemy or friend. As a result, many soldiers in the Dacian dynasty were brutally murdered, which aroused the resentment of many generals. So the restrictions on it are very heavy. That's what our ancestor taught us. The barbarian demon laughed innocently, nodded and bowed, but he still couldn't hide his excitement and anticipation. You go first. Li Hongzhen waved his hand, signaling the barbarian demon to leave. Yes, ancestor. The barbarian demon respectfully agreed, turned around and walked out of the flying boat deck. At this time, Ba Yudao I asked cautiously, Ancestor, Zhang Luoshan asked me, Xuanhuan, to attack the right wing of Chang'an city 3 days ago. Now that she has set off, can we also? Li Hongzhen glanced at Ba Yudao, which immediately made the latter feel awe-inspiring and closed his mouth. Give me the order. Li Hongzhen sat cross-legged, his voice was calm, but there was a faint sound of wind and thunder, which was inexplicably shocking. The entire army of the Xuanhuan dynasty has gathered to attack Chang'an at midnight tonight. Boom! In an instant, the sky shook and the earth shook, and the sun and moon were upside down. As you command. As the roar of thunder resounded throughout the world, Ba Yudao immediately bowed and saluted. In addition, inform Kangyu and ask them to cooperate. After speaking, he slowly closed his eyes. Yes. After hearing Li Hongzhen's instructions, Ba Yudao immediately turned around and walked out quickly. The next moment, The entire flying boat started suddenly, broke through the clouds in an instant, flew thousands of miles, and headed straight for Chang'an. Half the day has passed in the blink of an eye, and dusk is approaching. Under the reflection of the setting sun, Chang'an city is still in a peaceful atmosphere. Common people or monks were either buying things in the shops to prepare for the war, or they were gathering to discuss and analyze the current situation of Qin. The streets are brightly lit, restaurants are lined up, and the inns are overcrowded. At this time, Chang'an city was not aware of the danger coming. And at this moment, a mighty sword energy suddenly cut through the sky. In an instant, thousands of brilliant sword energy burst out between heaven and earth. Each sword energy is so sharp that it seems to be able to split the sky. One after another. The entire sky of Chang'an city has been filled with this sword energy. In a trance, it even gives people the illusion that there are thousands of sharp swords floating between heaven and earth. Gen. Amid the roar of swords, infinite sword light roared across the sky and intertwined into a network, seeming to submerge the entire city of Chang'an in the endless sea of swords. Countless monks looked up one after another, their pupils shrinking suddenly. What's going on? Oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? Sword light. So many sword lights. A powerful enemy invades Chang'an. After a brief silence, countless monks exclaimed. And the moment all the monks raised their heads, boundless sword light flowed down from the sky, penetrated the sky, and enveloped the entire Chang'an. Tisk. In an instant, the roar of the sword was earth-shattering and extremely harsh. Everyone in Chang'an city felt their hearts beating hard, almost stopping. Not good. Run away. Countless people looked terrified. In their memories, Chang'an city had never seen such a terrifying scene. The sword light was like a sea, almost covering the sky. The next moment, just when the first sword light was about to pierce into Chang'an city, there was a buzzing sound from the center of Chang'an city. Then I saw a burst of light radiating out, forming a thin and silky barrier, blocking the sword light. The barrier was like an inverted glass bowl, tightly covering Chang'an city. Amidst the sound of gold and iron colliding, the endless sword light was finally annihilated outside the barrier, turning into light smoke that filled the sky, unable to advance even an inch. It's a defensive array. In Chang'an, countless people breathed a sigh of relief when they saw this scene. Chang'an is the capital of the Qin dynasty and the capital of all dynasties. The defensive array is naturally not simple. However, the next moment, everyone was filled with astonishment again. After the endless sword rain dissipated, countless soldiers in armor rushed over with unparalleled deterrence. Kill. A man with a majestic figure, holding a huge shield, carrying a battle axe on his shoulders, and wearing fine armor shouted loudly. Kill. The 800,000 troops roared together, with great momentum, almost like the collapse of the sky. At the same time, a huge boat also appeared from the sky, with drums roaring, the army pressing on, and flags covering the fields. Hiss. Looking at the army rushing like a torrent, even those veterans of the Qin dynasty who were used to the battlefield couldn't help but take a breath. It's the king's banner with the Chinese character Zhang. The north is attacking. The north is attacking. Damn it! How dare these traitors attack? Quickly notify His Majesty. A series of panicked shouts rang out on the city wall. Many guards were horrified and frightened when they saw this scene. Calm down. Don't panic. The guard commander at the city gate roared loudly. Unfortunately, no one could remain calm when such a force suddenly attacked, especially after seeing the big banner with the Chinese character Zhang behind it. Despair rose in their hearts. If there was no guard formation outside Chang'an city, they would have been in chaos long ago. And at this moment, the news of the army approaching the border came from both sides of Chang'an city. Chang'an has no way out. At this moment, Both the soldiers guarding the city and the monks in the city were completely panicked. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 107. Above the court, the sky was gloomy and gloomy. Qin Mu had not yet gone to court at this time, and all the ministers gathered together and talked about it, all of them worried. I didn't expect that the Northern Army would launch a general attack on Chang'an City in such a short period of time. It seems that Zhang Luoshan is bound to win. The army in the north is originally an army of tigers and wolves. There are very few armies in the entire Qin dynasty that can match it, so they are naturally very ferocious. Oh, the Northern Army is coming so soon, I'm afraid our lives are in danger. I don't know how long the defensive formation can resist. Alas! I'm afraid we won't be able to resist for too long. After all, this time there are not only the Northern Territory, but also the troops of the two dynasties Kangyu and Qianyuan. Chang'an is in danger. Great Qin is in danger. Above the court, the ministers sighed and spoke, their faces gloomy and disheartened. Although they had already anticipated this day, they didn't expect it to come so quickly. Just one day. The northern troops approached Chang'an City and completed the encirclement, leaving Chang'an isolated and helpless. A civil servant couldn't help but cursed angrily. Your Majesty is so stupid that he pinned his hopes on a surprise attack on Qianyuan. He is simply committing suicide. In Chang'an City, there is currently only a 300,000 Yulin guard guarding the city. It is unable to withstand the iron hooves of Kangyu and Qianyuan in the north. Once the defensive formation is broken, Chang'an City will be in danger. An old official couldn't help but beat his chest. If I had known this, even if I risked my life, I would never agree to your Majesty doing this. Alas, the army has arrived at the city, and His Majesty is still missing. What should I do if I wait? I'm afraid that your Majesty is still in Xuanhuan Township and doesn't want to come out. He doesn't know that the situation has reached an imminent moment. Hunjun, your Majesty still can't change the nature of Hunjun. Well. Amidst the sighs, all the officials in the court were disheartened and full of despair. Especially now that the imperial preceptor is going to Qianyuan again, it is even worse. Although Patriarch Qin Tian is still in charge of Chang'an, he is currently in retreat. Whether he can come forward or not is still one thing. Moreover, there must be saints in Kangyu and Qianyuan. Even if Qin Tian Patriarch can come forward, he will end up in a situation where it is difficult for him to defeat 4 people with 2 fists. At this time, the scolding civil servant suddenly looked around cautiously and whispered. Otherwise, we can use the teleportation formation to leave Chang'an City for the time being. As soon as these words came out, another civil servant immediately echoed. I agree. Staying here is just waiting for death. It's better to leave Chang'an City as soon as possible. But soon someone shook his head and retorted. You are thinking too simply. The Kangyu dynasty and the Qianyuan dynasty will definitely send saints here, and after the saints' domain is expanded, it will be enough to control the world. Without their intervention, the teleportation formation cannot be used normally. Is there really nothing we can do? The civil servant still said unwillingly. I don't want to sit here and wait for death. I must leave Chang'an. However, before he could finish his words, a dark ink light suddenly flashed across his neck in an instant. The next moment. Poof! Blood flowers bloomed, and the civil servant's head rolled down. He died on the spot, and his body fell heavily on the steps. This sudden scene caused the originally noisy court to fall silent and deathly silent. Everyone froze on the spot, staring blankly at the headless body that fell to the ground with eyes wide open. Everything seemed to happen so fast that it was not even clear how the civil servant died. Everyone looked around in surprise and saw a man covered in black clothes and wearing a ghost mask walking out slowly. He stepped on the void, and as he walked, there seemed to be ghosts wailing in a trance, which was creepy. Every step the man takes seems to step on everyone's heart. A cold, forbidding feeling emerged in everyone's hearts. Dark God Guard. Everyone's hearts were filled with fear, and they looked at the man with the grimace with more and more fear, even with a hint of fear. The man picked up the civil servant's head on the ground with an indifferent expression, and then slowly walked towards another civil servant who spoke in agreement, his eyes as cold as knives. "You, what do you want to do?" The civil servant was so shocked that he reluctantly asked. But as soon as he finished speaking, the man suddenly drew his sword and struck it down. Tisk. Blood sprayed out, and the civil official's head flew up and fell to the ground. Wisps of blood shot out from the civil servant's neck. In an instant, a pungent smell of blood filled the entire hall. At this moment, there was no more words in the entire hall. Everyone was silent and did not dare to make any move. He took one step forward and came to the dragon chair. He looked down at the frightened faces below, slowly raised his head, and finally spoke. "Anyone who shakes the morale of the army will be killed without mercy. Those who defect to Chang'an will be killed without mercy. Those who surrender to the north will be killed without mercy." The cold and ruthless voice echoed in the court. 3 killings without mercy caused the atmosphere in the entire Xuanhuan palace to freeze to a freezing point, and a chill enveloped the entire hall. These people are all officials of the Qin dynasty, or the most outstanding figures among the aristocratic families. Each of them has a noble status and has power over the government and the public. But at this time, in front of the man, he was like a chicken and a dog, easily killed. This huge gap made them tremble. The man in black robe is none other than the leader of the Dark God Guard, Li Hanshan. He looked at the court officials indifferently, with a hint of sarcasm flashing in his eyes. At this time, Wang Xing, the secretary of the Ministry of Revenue, boldly took a step forward, cupped his hands and said, "Commander Li, I wonder where your majesty is now. When will you be willing to go to court?" He doesn't want to be the first person, but now that the imperial master is out on an expedition, probably no one in the court would dare to say this except him. Just as Wang Xing finished speaking, Qin Mu's voice came from the side. "It seems that Wang Iking misses me. I will have to visit Wang Iking's house some other day." Qin Mu walked in slowly, his smile as warm as a spring breeze, his tone even more so, without any hint of urgency at all. But when Wang Xing heard this, his face turned slightly pale, showing fear. "Your Majesty," he suddenly fell to the ground in fear. The other ministers also knelt on the ground and kowtowed respectfully, "See your Majesty. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Len. Chapter 108. "You don't need to be polite, just stand back," Qin Mu said calmly. "Thank you, your Majesty." The ministers kowtowed and stood up. Qin Mu looked around, his eyes swept over the civil and military officials of the DPRK, and the corners of his mouth slightly outlined. "I heard that someone wants to defect to Chang'an at this time." "Your Majesty, those 2 have been executed." Wang Xing's heart thumped, but he still responded bravely. The other ministers also lowered their heads, and no one dared to look up. Qin Mu smiled slightly, "I know that you don't want to abandon me, but because the coalition forces of Kangyu and Qianyuan in the north are too powerful, you are worried that Chang'an City cannot withstand it." His voice was very gentle, but it sounded like thunder in everyone's ears, making them sweaty and anxious. "I also understand your difficulties. After all, the enemy we face is too powerful." Qin Mu glanced at the ministers with his deep eyes, and his tone gradually deepened. "However, since ancient times, rebellious ministers and traitors have not suffered a happy death." As he spoke, his eyes revealed fierce murderous intent. A majestic majesty poured into the court like a tide, overwhelming everyone and almost suffocating. "Your Majesty, please spare my life. I will never surrender to the enemy even if I die. His Majesty. My emperor is wise. We swear to live and die with Chang'an. Everyone was shocked and immediately fell to their knees on the ground, quickly showing their loyalty. Hearing this, Qin Mu showed a smile and then waved his hand. My dear friends, please rise. I naturally trust you. Qin Mu's attitude made the courtiers breathe a sigh of relief, and then they stood up one after another. I already know what happened outside Chang'an City, what do you think? Qin Mu asked. The ministers looked at each other and whispered. Your Majesty, I believe that the imperial preceptor is not too far away from Chang'an City now. It's not too late for you to recall him. Only in this way can we relieve Chang'an City's worries. Yes, Your Majesty, Chang'an City is currently empty of troops. It is definitely not the enemy of the three parties from the north, Kangyu and Qianyuan. If that doesn't work, we can also mobilize troops from other counties and cities to support Chang'an. All the civil and military ministers looked anxious and anxious. Qin Mu nodded repeatedly, but did not make any statement. He just looked at the ministers with a smile. Seeing this, the officials became more and more anxious. If it weren't for the two bloody corpses lying on the ground, their words would have been even sharper at this moment. At this moment, there were rapid footsteps, and a eunuch rushed in with an anxious look on his face. South City Gate is in emergency. Before he finished speaking, he quickly knelt on the ground and said, Your Majesty, a fierce god has appeared at the South City Gate. He is charging at the South City Gate. The barrier is in danger and can no longer be stopped. What? As soon as this statement came out, the whole place was in an uproar. The ministers exchanged looks with each other, and they all saw disbelief and fear in each other's eyes. Is the barrier going to be unsustainable so soon? How is this possible? How rude is it to act in such a panic? Back off. Qin Mu's expression remained calm. Yes. The eunuch immediately retreated after hearing this. In the main hall, the originally noisy sounds disappeared instantly. My dear friends. Qin Mu turned around and looked at the officials in the hall. Come with me to the South City Gate to take a look. After hearing the words, everyone hesitated for a moment, and then bowed one after another. I obey the order. Qin Mu took the first step, boarded the dragon chariot, slowly left the main hall and headed towards the South City Gate. The crowd followed closely behind, making a huge fuss. After a while, Qin Mu led his ministers to the South City Wall and looked up. The sky and the earth were filled with darkness, smoke and dust billowing, an endless violent aura filled the surroundings. A giant man who was 100 feet tall, covered in black iron clothing, with blood-red eyes and a fierce aura, slowly stepped out. The giant man fell down in one step, and the earth trembled, as if the sky was falling. He punched out, and a blood moon suddenly appeared in the sky. The blood moon hangs in the night sky, scattering endless and strange scarlet blood light, dyeing most of Chang'an City as red as blood. Roar! With a roar, the blood moon fell and hit the South City Wall hard. The thin and lubricated barrier was rippled and swaying, full of dangers. But in the end, I still managed to endure it. Barbarian Devil. This is the fierce god barbarian demon of the Qianyuan dynasty. Many generals recognized this giant man and couldn't help but exclaimed in surprise. It is said that this barbarian demon practiced evil arts and was extremely cruel. He once slaughtered 19 cities. He is a real fierce god. There was fear on someone's face. This barbarian demon practices the blood evil technique. Once it is used, it will become extremely bloodthirsty and reckless, regardless of the consequences. Some senior soldiers looked solemn. Barbarian demon. Qin Mu narrowed his eyes and looked at the huge giant that was 100 feet tall. Your Majesty, let me deal with him. Li Han's hand took a step forward and said respectfully. Qin Mu smiled slightly and shook his head, no need. If the defensive formation of Chang'an City can be broken through with mere brute force, then the ancestors who set up this formation will probably die of shame. Let's go to the East City Gate to meet Zhang Luoshan for a while. We don't need to worry about him here for the time being. Qin Mu gave a faint instruction and turned to leave. Li Hanshan hesitated, but still bowed and said yes, and followed him to leave. Although the other ministers were worried, they did not dare to say anything and could only follow silently. At the south gate, the barbaric demons roared and attacked more fiercely. But the barrier was as solid as a mountain, firmly blocking all attacks. East Gate. On a high platform, Zhang Luoshan, dressed in a plain white dress, stood with her hands behind her back, overlooking the entire battlefield. On her left and right stood a team of beautiful and powerful female warriors, guarding on both sides. On the other side of the high platform, dozens of generals stood on both sides, silent, also looking at the battle outside the city. Zhang Luoshan's eyes were cold and solemn. She did not shout inside or outside Chang'an City, because here, any shouting was meaningless. There was only one result between the two sides, that is, life and death. Your Highness. The spies reported that the tyrant appeared on the south wall. Someone flew over, knelt on one knee, and reported the battle situation. Oh! The tyrant finally can't sit still anymore. Zhang Luoshan raised his eyebrows. Your Highness, what should we do now? A general asked. Send an order, the whole army will increase the intensity of the attack. Zhang Luoshan's eyes were cold. Since the tyrant has appeared, we don't have to delay any longer. Send an order, we must take Chang'an tonight. Yes. The general responded and hurriedly retreated. Tyrant. Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you hide in Chang'an? Zhang Luoshan took a deep breath, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Father, Qi Lao, you can rest assured, I will definitely avenge you. Boom. Just then, thunder suddenly sounded in the sky. Zhang Luoshan looked up and saw dark clouds all over the sky, and electric snakes were swimming. Faintly, there seemed to be a dull roar, like 1,000 horses galloping. Crack! Suddenly, there was another thunder explosion, and a sharp thunder tore through the sky. Then, the world suddenly changed. In the dark clouds, there seemed to be purple thunder flashing, shining continuously, illuminating the entire night sky. Zhang Luoshan stared slightly. At this moment, under this purple thunder, she saw a golden color appear on the city wall. Their eyes met. In an instant, it was as if two stars collided, and the world trembled. The wind and clouds surged violently, as if a huge wave was brewing. With just one glance, she confirmed the identity of the man. Qin Mu. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 109. Qin Mu. Seeing the dazzling golden robe and imperial crown, murderous intent burst out in Zhang Luoshan's beautiful eyes. His father was killed because he personally ordered it. Mr. Qi died tragically because of what he ordered. These incidents and accounts were imprinted on Zhang Luoshan's heart like a brand. This man deserves death. Killing intent burst out in her eyes, almost ready to burst out. And when his eyes locked on Qin Mu, Qin Mu's eyes also fell on Zhang Luoshan. With a quick glance, Zhang Luoshan's appearance came into his eyes. The black hair hangs down on the chest, the eyes are bright and the teeth are bright, the skin is like gelatin, and the bones are like jade. She has a graceful and slender figure and a flawless face. But on that absolutely beautiful and flawless face, there was ice all over it at the moment. The murderous intent in his eyes was so intense that it couldn't be dispelled. Feeling the murderous intention that was almost solid, Qin Mu's lips curved into a smile. This was the first time he had seen such strong and substantial murderous intent. Foolish lord, you have harmed the loyal and the good, and you are foolish and ignorant. Today, I, God Zhang Luo, will take your head. Zhang Luoshan's eyes were dark and his voice was low, containing great hatred. In an instant, the sky was filled with lightning and thunder, and the clouds were dense. It seemed even worse than before. A silver snake is swimming around, as if it wants to choose someone to devour. Zhang Luoshan took a step forward, and ripples suddenly appeared under his feet. As he took one step forward, the entire city of Chang'an seemed to be slightly shaken. An indescribable depression instantly enveloped every inch of the void. Zhang Luoshan. Seeing Zhang Luoshan take action, Qin Mu narrowed his eyes slightly, with a hint of mockery in his eyes, and said lightly. Since I came to the throne, I have been conscientious, diligent, and caring for the people. How can I say that I am stupid? Your father has evil intentions and attempts to rebel. It is natural for me to put him to death in the heavenly prison. How can I say that he harms the loyal and good people? Oh! After hearing Qin Mu's words, Zhang Luoshan sneered. She looked at Qin Mu with a sarcastic look on her face, her eyes cold. Han Jun, at this moment, you still want to confuse right and wrong. My father worked hard day and night to guard the northern border of the Qin dynasty, and fought all year round. He did not ask for anything in return, but only wanted the stability of the Qin dynasty. And you, a little foolish king, if it weren't for my father, how could your throne be so stable? But you unjustly killed my father in prison for your own selfish desires. It is an unforgivable crime and cannot be tolerated by heaven. Zhang Luoshan's voice became more and more angry. Today, on behalf of the people of Great Qin, I will kill you, this foolish king. Every word she spoke was sonorous and powerful. During this period of time, the thought of her father's body still being cold made her feel miserable. She had prepared for this day for too long and waited for too long. Now the time has finally come for the great revenge to be avenged. She was so excited that her voice was trembling. Many generals behind Zhang Luoshan also showed excited expressions. As long as Zhang Luoshan gives the order, they will definitely kill Qin Mu even if they pay the price with their lives. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Qin Mu. Your Majesty, please leave quickly. Your Majesty, it's dangerous here. Let's leave the city wall first. At this time, Wang Xing and the ministers were all nervous and hurriedly urged Qin Mu to leave quickly. But Qin Mu seemed unaware and still stood with his hands behind his back, his expression calm. Zhang Luoshan, this Great Qin is my Great Qin, you cannot represent the people of Great Qin. Qin Mu spoke slowly. His expression was calm and unhurried, and his eyes were distant. You are the daughter of a king with a different surname in the Qin dynasty, but you are not grateful at all. Instead, you try to overthrow the Qin dynasty. It is really a wolfish ambition. You're talking nonsense. Qin Mu's words made Zhang Luoshan furious, his pretty face extremely cold. In the face of a formidable enemy, this foolish king still dares to make such mischief. How could she endure this? Stop talking nonsense, you will definitely die today. Zhang Luoshan shouted, murderous intent boiling in her eyes. Then she ordered in a cold voice, the entire army is pressing forward. We must break through Chang'an City's formation as quickly as possible and kill the thief and fool. As soon as the words fell from all directions, countless elite black-armored warriors suddenly charged forward, sweeping towards the east wall like a flood. Your Majesty, retreat quickly. Seeing this scene, all the ministers were anxious and tried to admonish Qin Mu. But Qin Mu didn't take any action, just looked at Zhang Luoshan and others indifferently. Your Majesty, leave quickly. Seeing this, everyone was extremely anxious and knelt on the ground, begging Qin Mu to leave. However, Qin Mu turned a deaf ear to everyone's pleas. And this time, the sound of the rolling fighting became louder and louder. Fire the arrow. At the same time, Zhang Luoshan's eyes sharpened and he directly issued an attack order. Boo-hoo-hoo. The sound of a bowstring tightening sounded. I saw countless sharp arrows piercing the air and shooting towards the army overwhelmingly. These crossbows are specially made spiritual weapons with extremely strong penetrating power and great lethality against barrier formations. In an instant, countless sharp arrows shot through the air, carrying unparalleled power, and hit the barrier hard. A crisp sound of gold and iron echoed. Under the bombardment of sharp arrows all over the sky, the barrier rippled and shook endlessly. It obviously carries a lot of resistance. But despite this, the barrier is still extremely strong and has not collapsed. Snort. Looking at this scene, Zhang Luoshan's eyes flashed. She did not continue to attack, but raised her right arm and swung it violently. Boom. I saw the mysterious runes on Xuanhuan's flying boat lighting up, emitting a dazzling spiritual light. In an instant, a rune that was hundreds of feet tall appeared, exuding extremely terrifying power. Go. Zhang Luoshan scolded lightly. Suddenly, the talisman created a stream of light, transformed into a huge bright sword light in mid-air, and struck towards the east city gate. The sword light roared down, tearing the air, and slashed at the barrier. Clang. A sound like the collision of two magic weapons suddenly came. I saw that the barrier that was originally as stable as a mountain suddenly swayed violently. Click. In an instant, the barrier shook violently, with countless cracks appearing. With just one knife, the barrier was filled with cracks. Ha ha ha, okay. Seeing this scene, all the northern generals suddenly burst into cheers. The barrier is broken. This means that Chang'an has been lost, and they are only one step away from overthrowing the Qin dynasty. On the other side, the pupils of the ministers behind Qin Mu suddenly shrank and they exclaimed. Is this the power of a holy weapon? No, the formation is in danger. Everyone's expressions changed drastically, and their hearts were in their throats. Your Majesty, hide quickly. Your Majesty, quickly retreat into the palace. His Majesty. Everyone quickly reminded Qin Mu. Although the rune sword light was blocked outside the city wall. But its aftermath is still frightening, and even if it is just the aftermath, it is definitely not something that ordinary monks can resist. At this time, another guard came hurriedly to report. Report to your Majesty, the North City Wall is in danger. The Kangyu dynasty is attacking the city with quasi-emperor troops. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of all the ministers went dark and they were completely in despair. Quasi-imperial soldiers. The power of a holy weapon has already put this barrier in danger. If a quasi-emperor weapon is added, then this barrier cannot be maintained at all. Your Majesty, please leave quickly. If you don't leave, I'm afraid it will be too late. Everyone was extremely panicked, and they all started to admonish Qin Mu. But at this time, Qin Mu still looked at Zhang Luoshan indifferently, and suddenly smiled softly. The fun has just begun. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 110. Your Majesty. The south gate is in danger. Cracks appear in the barrier. Your Majesty. Cries of surprise rang out one after another. There were battle reports from every direction. After Zhang Luoshan launched a knife attack and cracks appeared in the barrier, the entire battle situation changed instantly. In just a short moment, the barrier, which was originally as solid as a rock, quickly showed signs of decline and was on the verge of destruction. And the situation in Chang'an City was becoming more and more dangerous. The ministers were horrified, trembling all over, and terrified. If this goes on, I'm afraid that within 3 sticks of incense, the barrier will be destroyed. Your Majesty. At this moment, everyone knelt down to Xuanhuan again. Your Majesty, please leave here. An older minister said tremblingly. Your Majesty, please leave. The other ministers also knelt down on the ground and kowtowed continuously. They knew very well that once the barrier was broken, it would be the end of the world. If Xuanhuan died here, the great Qin Empire would surely fall apart and fall into chaos. Escape? Why escape? Hearing the advice of everyone, Xuanhuan seemed to not understand at all. He stood on the city wall, his sleeves fluttering, calm and composed. It seemed that he was not worried about the barrier breaking, nor the lives of many ministers. And this calm appearance began to make the ministers feel more confused and puzzled. This kind of calmness can only be achieved by a true emperor who has experienced storms, or a martial arts master. Could it be that His Majesty is really sure to withstand this crisis? Buzz buzz buzz. At this time, in the void, Zhang Luoxin waved her jade hand. The Xiantian flying boat suspended in the void suddenly burst into brilliant light again. The huge rune blade light condensed again. Boom! Accompanied by a burst of thunder. The rune blade light cut through the sky and chopped the barrier again. Another loud noise was heard, and endless smoke and dust filled the air. The entire East City Tower trembled faintly, as if it was about to collapse. The cracks on the barrier became more and more dense, almost covering the entire barrier. Even, the hideous cracks had spread to the inside of the barrier and were vaguely visible. Obviously, the defense inside the barrier was on the verge of collapse. It's over. The barrier is about to break. Once the barrier breaks, we're all done. Seeing this scene, all the ministers were pale and terrified. Including the guards and generals responsible for defending the city, they all looked desperate, their eyes were wet, and their hearts were sad. Once the barrier was broken, they could only let the enemy slaughter them. On the other hand, the Northern Army was excited and excited. Haha, did you see it? This is the defensive power of the Qin dynasty, which can't stop the attack from my northern border at all. Charge! Break through Chang'an, sacrifice the flag with the blood of the tyrant, and sacrifice the spirit of the king of Zhenbei in heaven. Kill, kill, kill. Kill the tyrant, destroy the Qin dynasty. Roars roared out from the mouths of the major generals in the northern border, with extremely strong murderous spirit and hatred. All the northern armies were extremely excited. Just waiting for the moment when the barrier completely collapsed. When that time comes, it will be the moment when the Qin dynasty will fall and the tyrant will be executed. At this time, Zhang Luoxin looked indifferent. She looked at the cracks on the barrier, and her beautiful eyes flashed with an inexplicable luster. Finally, in the anxious, fearful, and desperate eyes of many ministers, the giant rune blade finally cut the last piece of the barrier and fell to the ground with a bang. Crack! With a crisp sound. The whole barrier shattered in response, turning into countless crystal powders, floating in the sky. The last ray of light on the barrier also disappeared. The barrier was completely broken. The barrier is broken. Seeing this scene, many ministers were desperate. Under the attention of everyone, Zhang Luoxin's white skirt fluttered, and she slowly stepped into the fragments of the barrier. Her beautiful face was full of calmness. This was not her first time to enter Chang'an, but it was her first time to enter Chang'an city in such an identity. But Zhang Luoxin found that at this moment, she did not have too many other emotions in her heart, only a kind of calmness. Your Majesty, be careful. At this time, a guard screamed and rushed over. He wanted to stop Zhang Luoxin. However, when he just moved and had not approached Zhang Luoxin, his body suddenly stiffened. His eyes were wide open and his face was distorted. Zhang Luoxin just waved his sleeves lightly, and the guard flew out like a kite with a broken string and fell to the ground. The whole audience was silent. Zhang Luoshan walked forward with a cold look in her eyes. Along the way, no one dared to stop her. Everyone stood there in a daze, not daring to move. Only Zhang Luoshan continued to move forward at an unhurried pace. Soon, Zhang Luoshan stepped over the ruins and climbed onto the city wall. She looked up and looked around. Finally, her eyes fixed on Qin Mu. "Stupid king, your doomsday has come." Her tone was cold, as if she was stating an established fact. She said this more than once, but never once as full of strong confidence as today. Hearing this, Qin Mu shook his head and laughed. "My doomsday has come? Why do I feel that this sentence should be said by me?" Having said this, Qin Mu paused slightly. When he heard this, Zhang Luoshan raised his eyebrows and said, "Why, up to now, are you still trying to fight to the death? After tonight, Great Qin will perish, and no one can save you." Zhang Luoshan was condescending, looking down at Qin Mu, with cold murderous intent in his eyes. "Oh? Really? I'm looking forward to it." Qin Mu smiled lightly. "Then keep your eyes open." Zhang Luoshan's eyes were cold, and then he slowly raised his sword and pointed it at Qin Mu. "Kill." As soon as the words fell, the Xiantian flying boat suspended in the air suddenly turned into a stream of light and headed towards Chang'an City. Behind her, the northern army was also swarming. In an instant, the overwhelming shouts of killing could be heard, deafening and suffocating. At the same time, the barriers of the South City Gate and the North City Gate were shattered, revealing the smoke of war outside the city. "It's over." Seeing this scene, both the officials guarding the city and the people felt their hearts sinking, and they were completely in despair. The troops of the Kangyu dynasty and the Qianyuan dynasty were greatly boosted in morale. They immediately seized the opportunity to launch a fierce attack and reached the gates of Chang'an City in an instant. This war has developed to this point, and there is no need for any tactical strategies. Because Qin has long lost any chance of winning. I saw the barbarian demon outside the South City wall roaring in the sky, leaping directly into the air, and then punched the Chang'an City wall. Bang! This punch was so powerful that it was like a meteor falling from the world, hitting the city wall heavily. In an instant, smoke and dust billowed. The incomparably strong Chang'an City wall was blasted out of a huge deep pit. A terrifying and boundless force erupted, instantly tearing apart the city bricks that were 10 feet thick, causing the entire city wall to shake violently. If this city wall had not been forged with special materials, it would have been unable to withstand it long ago and would have completely collapsed. But even so, there are dense cracks in the city wall, as if it will collapse at any time. Kill. Conquer Chang'an and massacre all the people. I, the Qianyuan royal family, rule the Qin dynasty, and you are all slaves, and you will never be able to stand up again. Kill all of Great Qin. The troops of the Qianyuan dynasty shouted wildly, and the sound was loud. Defend the city. At this moment, everyone was heartbroken. The generals guarding Chang'an showed determination, drew their swords boldly, and rushed towards the Qianyuan dynasty's army. At this moment, even the most timid person's bloody nature is aroused. Because behind them is the home they rely on for survival. Defend your homeland and would rather die than surrender. Kill. In Chang'an City, tens of millions of soldiers drew their weapons and rushed towards the Qianyuan dynasty's army. The situation at the North City Gate was the same. All the soldiers of Great Qin gathered on the tower and vowed to fight to the death against the Kangyu dynasty's army. Just when the warriors from both sides were about to collide, a vast and immeasurably powerful pressure suddenly rose in Chang'an City.